Alrighty. Good morning, good afternoon, and whatever time zone you are in. Welcome to our Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar. We are thrilled to have you here for this basic overview of Jira Service Management. My name is Alexis Heritage, and I'm a consultant here at Valiantys. Today, I'm going to guide you through JSM's most powerful features, highlighting how it can transform your service management workflows and enhance efficiency for your teams. Before we dive in, just a little about Valiantys. So we are a Platinum Solutions partner of Atlassian. We provide consulting, licensing, integration, and training services for organizations of all shapes and sizes worldwide. Whether you're working on the cloud or the data center platform, our expertise is built on 100% dedication to the Atlassian ecosystem. We are a 13-time Atlassian Partner of the Year award winner. We have collaborations with over 65 Fortune 500 companies. We have a full stack development center for custom solutions integrations. We do have the recognition of being Atlassian's first global partner, and we do offer 24/7 global coverage with a team of over 600 experts. We are Valiantys uniquely positioned to help you maximize the value of your Atlassian tools. So, how can we help? So, at Valiantys, we do specialize in a range of services that are centered around the Atlassian products. So, we have our consulting, which is to optimize tools and processes. We do licensing to ensure compliance and cost efficiency. We have integration development for custom solutions. We have managed services for ongoing support. And we have training like you are in here now to empower your teams. For a full list of our services, visit valiantys.com/services. So in addition to our training services like you are in this one, we do offer others. So we have webinars and we have boot camps. Webinars are our free content that you'll be able to register and join in. And then we also have interactive boot camps, which go in a more in-depth learning. One of our boot camps we have is our Jira Service Management Bootcamp, or what we like to call JSMBC. And our JSMBC is a 2-day workshop that covers everything you need to know to effectively use and administer JSM. That course is going to be designed for service desk managers, uh, administrators, as well as for people who are looking to get their feet wet for the first time and learn about Jira Service Management. And we do more than just our JSMBC. So we offer other boot camps for other Atlassian products, such as for Jira Software, which is now just known as Jira, and we even have for Atlassian Analytics. To learn more about those boot camps and then see the rest of trainings that we do offer, just visit valiantys.com/training. Our next JSMBC is actually coming up on October 7th, which is going to run you from October 7th to October 8th. Be sure to go ahead and reserve your spot today to enjoy a good learning experience. So with that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at our agenda for today. And also, if you want to scan the QR code right here, you can also quickly access our bootcamp links for all of our trainings. So for our agenda today, we're just going to start and we're going to go over a brief introduction about Jira Service Management, go over who's it for, some of highlighting some of the key features it has, and then we're going to go into a demo. So the demo, we're just going to go over fundamentals of JSM, both from the customer perspective side as well as the agent side. And then at the end, we're going to have a little Q&A section. So any questions that you have, we can answer them live and be able to work with you guys there for anything. With that being said, what is Jira Service Management? Who is it for? So let's start out with the what. So Jira Service Management originally was designed for IT service management in mind. And since then, it has evolved into a very robust platform that really serves any type of service team. Whether you are in a customer service area, you are in HR, legal, marketing, and beyond. It's endless. It is for anybody. Whether you're providing a service or you are receiving customer requests, JSM offers invaluable tools to help you streamline your operations. Some very key benefits include a customer-facing help center and project portals. These are very clean and simple for your non-technical users. We have SLAs, or known as service level agreements. Those are your measure time metrics for tickets, such as a time to first response or a time to resolution. We have the knowledge base integration, so that's going to be powered by the Atlassian product Confluence, and that's going to help you not only self-serve and guide your customers, but allows you to have an internal repository for your agents for guidance of solving issues. We have ITIL-based workflows, so for request, incident, problem, and change management, which also includes a post-incident review as well. JSM has approvals, so these are going to be built-in multi-step approvals with history tracking that allow you to have a full sense of auditing on approvals. You have queues. These are saved filters that are going to help agents triage and work them that these tickets that are specific to each project as well as for the teams that are working on them within that project. Jira Service Management also has an email channel, so you are able to automatically create tickets from an inbound email into your project. There is the virtual agent, which is an AI-powered chatbot that's only on the JSM Premium and Enterprise editions. That runs off of the same type of Atlassian intelligence that Rovo runs with. There is conversational ticketing, which is going to be with Slack and Microsoft Teams. And then you also have built-in automation, which is with automation for Jira to streamline and make tasks a lot easier that are repetitive. And JSM integrates very seamlessly with Jira software. So whether you're already familiar with Jira, the learning curve is going to be minimal. Even if you're new, JSM works as a standalone product, ensuring accessibility for all users. So while in this webinar we go over just the very fundamentals, there's so many more features to JSM, and that is where that comes into play our next webinar. So we have another webinar just like this one, but it's called Advanced. So this is going to cover things such as those incidents, changes. It's going to cover assets, which is formerly known as insights. So to explore those in depth, we do invite you to join the Advanced JSM Features webinar. So you can scan the QR code on the screen right here, or you can visit valiantys.com/training. So you can keep an eye on the next session of that webinar, which that one's going to be on August 28th. And remember again, these ones are free. So all you have to do is click register and you can attend those. All right. So now that we have all of our introduction out of the way, we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into our demo. And to start with, we're going to go over the customer experience first, and then we will go over the agent experience. During this webinar, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them with the Q&A section. That way, at the very end, I will address them, and as time permits, if we don't happen to get to your question, as if we run out of time, we will make sure to answer your question and send it to you via email. That way, your question doesn't get left unanswered. So without further ado, let's talk about the Help Center. So the Help Center, this is a group of Jira Service Management projects. This is where your customers can submit requests. You can view the status of your requests, whether or not you created them or they were shared with you. You can access knowledge base articles for self-service and common troubleshooting and answers to general questions. And you can even provide approvals to required requests. So features of the Help Center that you have with this search bar right here in this topic section, this allows you to ensure customers can find the right information quickly. For example, let's say an employee is having trouble connecting to the VPN on their laptop from home. Rather than each time this occurs, the employee sets a ticket and gets the same resolution each time, that doesn't take too long, you could create a VPN troubleshooting article. So if we type in VPN, would be the key problem in this scenario, we're going to be brought up with a list of knowledge bases. And these are going to go from any knowledge base that's connected to any of the projects, and it's going to throw any relevant pages. This is going to be where if the page in the title has the word VPN, or if in the page itself it contains the word VPN. So if we click on this VPN troubleshooting, we're going to be left here with the article that's going to help us troubleshoot our issue, starting with making sure that your cat isn't on your keyboard before you connect to your VPN. You can also customize your Help Center's layout to tailor to a one-stop shop. For example, you can create additional sections to display common access links to your employees. For example, providing the link to the company's holiday calendar, your time tracking system, or even a link to an additional system that specific types of processes should be reported to, but aren't going to be reported through the JSM portal. You can add specific lines of text in those sections. So maybe you want to put out a list containing guidance of what requests should be submitted to what project for easy access to your customers. The Help Center as well also has the ability to add an announcement to display like you see right here. Along with each Help Center, each project also has this capability as well. So for the Help Center, it's going to be displayed right here. And if we go into a project for announcement, it gets displayed at the top. And they can be individual per project as well. So now that we went over a little bit about the Help Center, let's get into actually submitting a request. And along with the portal, customers can submit tickets in different ways. So we have email. I mentioned that there is an email channel associated with each project that gets created, which is a default Atlassian email address. So users can use that and you can email to create tickets. The email address can be changed, meaning that suffix of it in the beginning can, and you can even add additional emails, whether you use the ability for Atlassian's default addresses, or you can also add your own, such as any Google or Microsoft shared mailbox. You have chat widgets. So these are configured on other websites that will link to your project. Most commonly, you're going to see chat widgets on big company support websites. For example, if you go to Best Buy, the minute you hit enter and visit the site, you're going to be brought in the top right pop-up saying, "Hey, how can I help?" That's the chat widget. And the only downside to using those is that your help portal has to be set to all open and it cannot be restricted. So usually you're not going to use chat widgets with your help center unless you support a very worldwide broad audience where you want them to be able to easily access your portal. You do have what we're looking at right here is the Help Center to submit on. The Help Center, note, is only for Jira Service Management projects. Once you create one JSM project, your Help Center is generated. And you can also create more than one Help Center. You won't be able to change different content, so you could hide certain projects from appearing on a certain Help Center, but the data that's within each project is going to be the same in each Help Center. We have chat integrations, so using Slack and Microsoft Teams with the help of the Atlassian Assist app, you can submit tickets and have conversational ticketing through those two. And you also have the virtual agent, which can be used on the Help Center, it can be used on Slack, and it can be used on Microsoft Teams as well. So we'll walk through now how to navigate the Help Center. We're going to find the appropriate request type. We're going to submit two tickets. So we're going to have an example to demonstrate the process and logic behind it. So we're going to submit a ticket that doesn't require approval, and then we'll submit one that does require approval. So to start out easy, let's navigate and let's do one that does not require approval. So we're going to navigate into the project that I want to submit my ticket to. And then I'm going to go to my request. I want to submit a general IT request, so I'm going to use Get Help. So I'm going to click on here and click Get IT Help, and now I am in my form for my request. Notice that some of the fields you see here have a little red asterisk. This is because this is marked as required. In order to submit this form, you must have information in that. If I go and try and submit this ticket without filling in the information, it's going to tell me what areas I need to submit to. You'll also notice that on this, I have a little box right here that says raise this request on behalf of. Note that this is only an agent field. You can create this customly for your customers to use if it so desires that in your company you do raise requests on behalf of others. But this specific field right here you see is an agent only feature. So for this request, again, we're going to submit a general IT question. So I'm going to say, can I update Zoom? And let's say Zoom has an update. Can I run it? So the only required field in here was the summary, but I just put in a little bit of information. When it comes to submitting your tickets, when you have your connected knowledge bases in and you start typing in the summary, it will also try and help you and throw those troubleshooting articles at you. This is the last resort way to kind of, if you didn't go look on the portal for that article, as you're going in here, it's going to try and throw it at you just one last time to see if this helps you. That way you don't have to actually submit your ticket. But for now, I'm going to ignore this, and you also can turn off the ability for these showing on the summary. You can turn that off, or you can even restrict certain articles to appear, so that way you don't have irrelevant articles appearing. But once I have all my information, I'm going to click send, and now my ticket is created. So within here, I can see all the information. I can see what I filled out of the summary, I can see my description. If I had a lot of fields that I filled out on a form, I could just click hide and it would collapse all those together. In this activity section right here, this is where I can send comments to the ticket, and then the agent who picks up my ticket can also respond back, and I'll see those all within there. This also includes any attachments they might send will also display there. In this view, I can also see the status that my ticket is in. I'm able to turn notifications on and off per individual request. So if I didn't want to receive notifications for this, I could just click that bell to turn it off. And in this scenario, this ticket does allow me to, on the portal, transition it. So if I needed to escalate my ticket, if I wanted to resolve it or cancel it, I have the ability to do that here. I'm able to see the request type that I assigned it to, and I can even share it directly with other people. So if I wanted to share this ticket with my coworker Brad, I would be able to also share it with him here. So that was a ticket with the non-approval. So let's go ahead and let's submit one that does require approval to see how that looks on the customer side. So to navigate back to the project, if I just click in this breadcrumb trail up here, the project, it'll bring me back to the home page. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to request a new laptop. So because I want to show you how this approval works, I'm actually going to raise this request on behalf of my coworker Brad. And now I'm going to go ahead and again fill out the required forms that are marked with that asterisk. So I'm going to say need additional equipment. And the model that I want is I want a MacBook 2020. So once I have all the information in, again, I just click send and now my ticket is created. And we can see here, since I said raise on behalf of Brad, it showed that Brad raised this request. We can see that this is in waiting for approval. I do have the ability to cancel it. And if I hit refresh, I'm going to be set as the approver of this request because I, in this scenario, am Brad's manager. So therefore, I have the ability right here to approve or decline this ticket. And same within the other one, I can turn notifications on and off. I can also add additional comments. So this is what the ticket looks like. So now that we've submitted 2 tickets, let's see how we can find those tickets on the portal. So if we come up in the top right, we'll be able to see my profile, and you have 2 options in this menu. You're going to be able to see your requests, and in this request section, this is going to be anywhere where you have created the ticket or you've been shared the ticket with. And you can sort this by searching the summary name. If you know the certain status that it's in that project, you can click on that status to filter. If you know what request type it is, you can also filter by that. You can also edit the columns that you see here. Note though that right now these are the only supported columns, so if you wanted to remove any, you could, or switch around the order, you can, but for now those are the only supported ones. There's also one just for approvals. So let's say you wanted to see any tickets that currently require your approval or any that you have had approval history in the past, whether you had approved or declined those. You'll be able to filter and sort through those here to view them. And that one's again also going to be able to be sorted by request type as well as searching in the summary. So with that, that's how you see your tickets. So let's go ahead and pivot to looking at what the agent side is. To navigate quickly to the agent side, what we're going to do is we're going to click on one of our tickets. And then in the breadcrumb trail up here, as an agent, if you click on this, you're going to be sent to the agent view of this ticket. So note that right now Atlassian is still in the process of changing the term issue to work item. In a lot of areas they have already changed it, but you're going to see in some scenarios where it still says issue. And you may notice that I say issue and work item interchangeably. It's just been very ingrained in my mind to say issue, so it's a hard habit to break. But note that those mean one and the same. So when you are on the agent view, you can work your tickets. So agents are going to be able to view ticket details such as forms, attachments, comments. You can use the status dropdown to move tickets through its workflow. You can access suggested knowledge base articles for resolution assistance. As an agent, tickets are going to be your core day-to-day activities in Jira Service Management. This is where you're going to eat, sleep, live, breathe. This is where you work out of. So because this is very important to an agent, let's explore the details of what a work item looks like and highlight its main elements. So to start with, we're going to go ahead and take a look. So when we clicked on that little work item key in the breadcrumb trail, that is known as the work item key. This is a unique identifier for the ticket. This key doesn't change unless the work item is moved into a different project, but this key, if it is moved, will always be associated, so it just becomes an alias of that work item. Below it, you have your summary. This is a quick sentence synopsis of the ticket. This is a required field that you cannot change. You cannot change of where, if it is visible or not. But you can choose to let the customer fill it out directly on the portal, or you can choose to hide it and set a default value, or even after submission, you can choose the ability to automatically set it to a certain type of template. Coming down here, we have our request type. So this field indicates the type of request that the customer used to submit the ticket. So this field can be adjusted by agent. So if we click on the field here, we're going to see here that we can change this. So if your customer accidentally submitted it under the wrong request type, or after working through the ticket, it's realized that, hey, this really doesn't belong under this request type, you are able to then change it. But the request types that show in this list are only going to be of the same issue type. So if you need to change this to an incident, you would just need to change the work item type by clicking up here, and then you'll be able to see those other request types. And request types are how you categorize specific processes that you want customers to create tickets for. You can hide request types to make them only visible to a specific group or users, or you can hide it entirely from the portal for internal use. So that's going to be common for things like your email channel. You're going to hide that request type from the portal so its only intake comes from an email address. And request types are specific to Jira Service Management, so they are not available in Jira. Coming a little bit back up, we're going to take a look at our stats and workflows. So right now we can see here that this work item is in waiting for approval. Each status in this workflow corresponds to a step in this a step in this request process. So right now we can see here that this work item can go in one of two transitions. It can get to either be approved or it can be canceled. By clicking on this view workflow, we're going to be able to see the full path and transitions between all these statuses. In here, you're going to be able to see all your direct transitions. So this is going to be how you see where a ticket can go. A ticket can only go where there's a direct transition to, whether that is a direct line to line, or if it's a transition that has been made available to all statuses to be able to transition to. Within a workflow, you can also set conditions, validators, even post functions directly within a workflow. These are very common tasks to use, so such as locking down who has the ability to edit an issue in a particular status. Let's say when you get to your final close status that this ticket has been fully worked and that it should no longer be editable, you could lock it down so that way no fields are editable. Or let's say for a post function that from resolve this ticket gets moved back to an in progress state, you can make a post function clear the resolution. That way it's not being seen from Jira that it is a done ticket. Workflows can be customized to be made as simple or as complex as you need them to be, with even the ability to create your own statuses to identify a state of work that a work item is in. While transitioning an issue is more of an agent feature, there is the ability to configure your workflow to make specific statuses transitions visible to the portal for your customers to use. And that is where, when we just took a look, you saw things like the escalate, you saw cancel and resolve. Those are transitions that have been made visible to the customer portal, so a customer can utilize those. So, coming down a little bit, we have SLAs. SLAs are visual representations of your SLA timers. So if you ever seen a green check mark, that means that the work item successfully met the SLA. So to check this, we see here that there's an SLA for time to approval. So if I go ahead and click approve on that, we're going to see here it's going to update that we met that SLA. So if I just refresh this, we're going to see that little green check mark that says I met this SLA. There we go. So green mark means that you've met the SLA. If you see an orange, that means that the work item is at risk for breaching the SLA, but it hasn't breached just yet. And when I use the term breach, that means that the work item did not meet its specified time goals. And if it didn't meet its specified time goals, you're going to see a red X. Even when the SLA gets breached, it's still going to continue to count your time until it meets its final end condition. Even if a work item gets paused on its SLA due to a pause condition and it's already breached its SLA, it's still going to show as a red X. It will never end up not showing a red X. Even once it's complete, it will still show that. If you see a gray, that means that the work item's in progress or it could be paused. So if you see this little clock right here, that's how you know that it is in progress. If you ever see a little pause symbol, that means it's paused. But if you see it still in gray, that just means that right now it hasn't been close to reaching and it has not breached yet. And SLAs do get applied to all work items in your project. However, you do have the ability to not set a time goal if you don't want that to officially apply counting metric to that work item. You can create as many SLAs as you want in a project as well. However, note that you can't exceed 90 goals between all of your SLAs. And a goal is how you define what is counted against your SLA. So a goal, for example, would be I want to set that when an issue of priority 1 is created, that there is a time goal of 1 hour for a timed resolution. That would be my goal. And the time that's counted against is going to be against an SLA counter, which can be set to be a 24/7, or it can be customized to tailor fit to the working hours of a company. You can even do multiple times in a different day to a company for different time zones or even a lunch break. You can even put in for holidays that will make sure that even if it does fall within your calendar, it is not counted against for that day. And recently, SLAs have been configured to include a priority matrix for the target. So whereas before, if you wanted to say for the same type of condition, let's say for an incident, if it's priority 1 to 4, we want to set a different time goal. Before, each of those would have been 4 separate goals. Now, Jira Service Management has allowed the ability to have in one goal a priority matrix that you can set different times for those priorities. Coming down from the SLAs, we have our details section. So this includes key fields. So you have fields such as priority, you have your assignee, and any custom fields that have been set up by the project admin. Most fields can be put in here. However, there's going to be some fields you can't. So for example, the summary, we're not going to be able to throw that in the details view. We're not going to be able to throw description in this details section here. Those are going to live within this section. But you also can add fields into this section. So any field that you on the form tell the user to fill out, those can be also put there directly from the request form and on here. But a field cannot list in both this details section and this description section. So it's one or the other for these ones. Per each request, per each request type, you can also change what fields display. So this way you can hide irrelevant fields and remove clutter if it doesn't apply to that specific request type. In most fields, you are able to actually pin. So as you can see, as I'm hovering some of these, you see a little pin icon. If I click that, it's going to pin these all the way to a top section right here. And these will always be visible to me in this project. These don't apply to other people. It is just myself. So that way any field I can see. So sometimes you'll have a very long box of details fields. This is so that way you can go and see just what you want at a quick glance without having to scroll. In most fields, it may not look like they're editable, but any field you want to try and edit, if you just click on the box, you'll be able to see whether or not it is editable. There's going to be some fields, for example, an asset type field where you're going to actually see a little edit icon to modify, but most fields in Jira, you're not going to see them, so you just have to hover and click. So I could even change the summary. I could change the description. However, I cannot change, for example, this issue key. This is going to stay as it is. With the details section, you also do have a spot called a more fields section. And the more fields, this is going to be fields that do not have a value, and they're going to stay hidden. If they get put with a value, they will then drag up to your details section. So sometimes people do throw all their fields in more fields, so that way if it does get filled out, then it'll go up. Sometimes people just remove them because the same fields are always going to have a value, so there's no point in it. But you also do have this section to be able to collapse, so that way unrelated fields in a request, let's say sometimes it might have a value in that request type, sometimes it might not. Maybe you only want it to appear when it does have a value, and that's when it'll get dragged up top to the details section. You do have the ability to do stuff on a work item, such as create subtasks directly on it. You can link other work items, so you can link other tickets from the same project, different project, even from Jira projects, so Jira software, Jira work management. You're going to be able to link those together as well. You can link URLs, so let's say you have a website that is a reference to the ticket, you can link that. You can even link Confluence pages for quick and easy access. You do have the ability to add additional forms, so you can attach on a request type for submission a request form. However, if you want to gather additional information after submission, you do have the ability to add additional forms just by clicking on it and clicking add. You can add that form. And when you add a form initially, it's going to be marked as internal. So if you want to make it visible to the customer, you just have to click mark form as external, and this will allow the customer to fill it out. Once a form is also submitted, you cannot fill it out again without an agent going and opening it up for edits. So an agent can either open it up if it was closed, or if it's open, they can also have the ability to close it out as well. And at any given time, you could also hide that form to make it back internal, or you could do external again. While automation for Jira does have the ability to automatically execute on issues, you do have the ability when creating automations to make them manual. So clicking in this automation box at the top right, this lightning bolt, you will be able to manually run any automation that you have set to be manual executions through the tickets. Coming down to this activity section, this is where you're going to be able to see information about your ticket as well as even communications. So starting in the comments, this is where you're going to be able to leave a comment on a work item. So in this one right here, if I click reply to customer, any comment I make here is going to go into the portal view for the customer. So if I say this is a external comment, when I leave that and I go to the portal view of this ticket, if I refresh, I'm going to see here, I said this is an external comment. If I want to leave an internal comment, I will click on internal note and I'll say this is an internal comment. And you'll notice that you're going to be able to differentiate what type of comment it was because internal is always going to be highlighted by an orange box or yellow box. So you'll always be able to differentiate between the two of the visibility of the comment. Within responses, you also have the ability to have canned responses. This is so you have the ability to have customizable responses that are easily made available to insert and save time typing. Agents have the ability to create their own, as well as project admins can create shared ones for anyone in the project as an agent to utilize. When it comes in history, this is where you're going to be able to see any changes that have been made to ticket. This is going to run you from an automation, field changes, statuses. So for example, we can see that there were some automations for Jira that ran that set certain fields. We'll be able to see those as well as the actor that made that change. Any statuses. So this is your really good audit log to be able to look at all of this. Approvals, this is going to be with the JSON feature for approvals. You're going to be able to see a history of the ticket that required approval. You'll be able to see when it was triggered for approval, how many it needed to approve, the approval outcome of it, so whether it was approved or declined. And if you have multiple approvers in there, you'll be able to see each person's approval decision given. Since I was the only one put in that approval section, you're only going to see one here, but if you had more, you'd be able to see all of it there. When you do link other work items, you're going to be able to see those here. So if I link together another ticket, we'll do the one before it. I'm going to have in this section right here the ability to go to a ticket. I can transition it. If I have agent ability, I can assign it, see its priority. I can see its summary. And if I click in the link right here, I can easily go to that link ticket. Similar work items, this is going to utilize Atlassian Intelligence, and it's going to look and try and find other work items that may be the same request or have a similar type of request. So this is going to try and help for solving most common issues. So let's say you have a lot of reports of Zoom not working and similar work items, it's probably going to bring you some of those tickets so you can view them and see what the resolution was for that ticket to be able to easily complete your next ticket. And that is the overall arching of the view. If you have any add-ons within your system, you're going to see additional stuff. So for example, here I have this tempo area. This is because of a tempo marketplace add-on. So I'm not going to go into covering that, but just know that as you have add-ons, they're going to add sections on between your issue view as well as even down here. So tempo is also located here, along with having an ability to utilize this tempos feature inside of the work item. So coming down a little bit, I did briefly mention about automations. So in this section right here, we're going to be able to see any recent automation runs on a work item. So this is going to allow you to see those. You can go to those and view the rules. You can see the status of it. So if it was successful, if it didn't meet the conditions, so no actions performed, or if there was an error. And automation for Jira helps agents focus on meaningful work by handling repetitive tasks automatically. In Jira Service Management Bootcamp, we do go in this more in depth on automations, but just at a very high level, automations consist of three components. You have your trigger, conditions, and actions. An automation's always going to need to know when it must start firing off, and it needs to know what it should do. Those are the two things that an automation must have. Conditions are optional in automations, but they do provide a variety of options to help you narrow down the scope of the work items you want to execute on to ensure that you are executing actions appropriately. Automation for Jira for these logs, again, they are in their own box, so it allows you to look at those. And besides native actions, for example, editing a ticket, leaving a comment, sending an email, it does also allow for integration access for automation. So for example, you can have it restart a virtual machine in Azure. You can make it send a Slack or Microsoft Teams message. You can even make it add a user to an Okta group. There are many, many more use cases of integrations, including the use of using webhooks to even take a step further and connect other platforms and perform actions to systems that support the use of those webhooks, and even sending information from a Jira ticket to them, or even that external system sending information back to a Jira ticket. So now that we got the overarching view of a ticket, let's go ahead and let's take a look at those queues, since as an agent, you're going to live out of these queues. Queues are vital for organizing and prioritizing tickets for agents. Within these, you have your default queues, so you'll be able to see in here some queues. Very common queues that come out of the box is going to be a all my tickets and an all open tickets. And these queues filter tickets by certain criteria. So if we take a look at this queue, for example, it's created in the last day. If we go and look at what the filter that is using for this queue, it's saying show me tickets that have been created within the last day and the resolution is unresolved, meaning that they are currently open. And you can customize queues to fit any of your needs. Project admins only have the ability to create these queues, but they can create as many queues as they would like using JQL, or if you're using very basic, you don't have to you don't have to build them in direct JQL, you can build them in a basic mode to which it will build out the query for you. And you can also customize these columns to display what is here. You can show any custom field that is there. You can even show fields that are connected to assets. So if you want to filter and have a group that shows an assignment group, you can add that in there as well. And you can also group queues into what's called priorities. So that way, if you have multiple teams working in the same project, you have the ability to separate what queues belong to them. As while we can't hide what queues show to everybody, they will be visible to everyone. You could at least group certain things so it's kind of more out of sight, out of mind. Within a queue, agents can also select multiple tickets and you can perform bulk actions. So you can do things such as changing a status or even assigning work items. And bulk actions can be completed on work items within these queues as well as even from a filter. Performing these bulk actions does require the global permission to perform bulk actions as well as the permission of the action you're trying to perform. For example, let's say you need the ability to transition a work item and you want to do a bulk transition. Well, not only are you going to need the bulk global transition, you're also going to need the ability to transition an issue. So just keep those in mind. Even the ability for things such as deleting a work item is also a permission as well. For any queues that you work out that are important to you and that you're always in, you can star queues. So starring queues is going to bring you into this little start section. And these are only going to apply to yourself. They are not going to apply to other agents. It's the same concept as those fields that you can pin in an issue view. It's always going to appear up top for you and easy access. Along with queues, if you are familiar with Jira, you're going to know that you do have boards. Within Jira Service Management, they also have added the ability of a board. And this board is a Kanban style that allows you to also work out of this with a different visual view. And boards are a good way for those agents that are used to working in Jira and don't quite get the view maybe of a queue and they want to work in a board, they can view it like this. However, in Jira Service Management, you can only have one board, so you won't be able to have multiple, but you can also do your filtering of like your statuses, your swim lanes, you still have that full capability. So I did mention that in the project that you can add additional forms. Well, those forms are called dynamic forms. And if we want to take a look at what forms are, so these dynamic forms that you can use, so project admins, they can configure these request types to use dynamic forms to capture additional details from customers in a flexible way. So these dynamic forms work and they will adapt based on customer input to show or hide fields as necessary using sections. For example, if we come in and we create a form, let's say in here that based on the selection of, let's say, a favorite food, and let's say taco, burger, nugget, pizza. So let's say based off the selection of this field, we want to only display information based off of if taco is selected. So let's say if taco or pizza is selected, we want to say, good job, good taste. But let's say if the favorite food selected was nugget. Let's say you want to show you like honey mustard. So now this is what makes this dynamic. So if we go onto this preview side, we're going to see here we have that one question, and then based off our selection, it's going to display the proper information. So by selecting taco, we saw it's showing what we put in with good job, good taste. If we select nugget, it's going to say you like honey mustard. So these are very key in being able to make your forms very complex to gather the right information you need without having to ask and go back and forth with the customer to talk. So you do have the ability to use fields. So you have text fields, choice fields, and any of these fields, you do have the ability to link them to custom fields. And custom fields are going to be fields that you are going to report data on. So for example, if you have a list of 25 office locations, that's probably going to be in a custom field. So if you click on drop down, if it's a regular custom field, you can just click and link that to that location, that custom field, and you'll be able to have that entire list right there. And that list can be maintained in the Jira administration side, and it'll always update as that field gets it. So as a rule of thumb, if you're not reporting on the data, you just need to gather it for your agent. You don't have to make it a custom field. You can just leave it as is. There's also another type of form that's called request form, and request forms are going to give you the same type of information. However, they're going to be more limited. So if we come into a request type, we're going to be brought into this request form. And in here, this is what we filled out on the portal. The only difference between this one and the other one is that all the fields in this request form area, they have to be custom fields. You cannot make and bring a field that doesn't have a custom field. And you also don't have the ability to conditionally show stuff. You do have the ability, for example, let's say a cascading custom field to show options based off of a parent selection, but you don't have the option to show a field or more than one field that you want based off of a selection. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to see people utilize the dynamic forms, but just note that there are two ways to gather information. One is with the request form section, and the other one is with the dynamic forms. And per each request type, you also have the ability to customize the status name that gets displayed to the customer. Let's say you have a very long list of statuses, and to a customer, maybe they don't need to know if for example, let's say you had an escalate and an emergency status, and that while those two mean the same to maybe a customer, it's the matter of that the customer doesn't need to know, but it's on the agent side, it means different things. You could set that to be the same display name, so that way when it transitions, they don't know that certain status. So it's very helpful for those scenarios where you want to keep that name for your agents, but maybe it might confuse your customers. You can change the name that displays there for that. And that, at a very high level, is a fundamental overview of Jira Service Management. Again, we keep this webinar very basic. If you want to check out more information, we always have our boot camps. We also have a YouTube channel that we post content to on a daily. You'll see those links that are going to be put in the chat for that information, as well as in there, you're going to see my email address to contact me, my LinkedIn. You'll be able to access those resources. But in the meantime, now that we're in the Q&A section, I'm going to open it up to questions. And I do see that we do have a few questions, so I'm going to start with one of those. And then if you still have some that you haven't asked yet, feel free to throw them in there. So one of the questions that we have is piggybacking off of the dynamic forms. So a question that was asked that says, can I share a dynamic form with another project? So to that answer, yes, you can share a dynamic form with another project. However, you cannot utilize, actually, no, let me rephrase. Yes, you can. Along with being able to duplicate forms in a same project, you can also copy and paste them to another project. So while you aren't utilizing the same form, you can make a copy of it and it can live in the other project. Therefore, you're sharing the same form. But any changes made to one form, if you made a copy of it, it's not going to update in the other form. Just keep that in mind because they do become separate form entities. But let's say if you have a specific template starting that you want all of your forms to start with, you can always have that template, and then as you make new forms, you can copy and continue on with your form there. That way you have a certain top template that you can keep together. But it's very helpful for those situations of templating, or even when you're trying to test out some changes in a form. If you have a test project, let's say, and you want to modify a certain production form, you can copy that to your your test project, and then be able to test with that there. So another question that came in, can the same ticket exist in more than one project? No. A ticket only lives in one project at a time. However, while you can't live in more than one, you do have the option of being able to link a ticket to one another, so essentially you can still share the information, or you do have the ability to clone a ticket and move it into another project. But information is not going to sync automatically between the two. You might have to use something like automation for Jira to copy comments, but those tickets are still going to update independently of each other, even if it is a clone. So it's usually best that it's just used with a linked ticket to conversate back and forth, adding other agents as a requested participant. That way they can engage in the ticket. But that is a very good question, though. And that ticket would that I mentioned, that's linking. If you link a ticket to, let's say, a project in Jira, you can actually talk to one another there. Let's say that one of your agents that you need help with isn't actually a JSM licensed agent, rather just a Jira licensed user. They do have the ability to come over to the Jira project, and they do have the ability to comment on that one ticket. They can't see all the tickets. They're just going to only be able to see the ticket that they got tagged in since they are a licensed Jira user. So that is another way that you can have collaboration between different products and different teams. Does anyone else have any questions? Let's see. I think I just saw another question pop up. My toolbar just disappeared for a second. Let's see. Um, Do we get the access to this webinar recording? So yes, you do. So any of the webinars that we give, we do record them, and they are put out on YouTube within 24 to 48 hours. So you're going to be able to watch them. You could even go through and watch any previous ones. You're going to notice that as time goes on, Jira does evolve, so it might look different, act different. So if you want to, you could also see how things change, but you will always have access to those because again, these webinars, they are free trainings, therefore you have the ability to go back and watch them. Or let's say you register for this webinar, but maybe you joined in late. It's totally okay. It's gonna go back on YouTube, so you're gonna be able to go through and watch what you missed, or even just refer to anything back from here. And on this screen right here that I have, this is just if you want to connect with me via LinkedIn or email, that QR code right there will take you to my LinkedIn. And then the screenshot's just showing you some of the playlists that we have. So in here, the screenshot is showing you the playlist of all of the Jira Service Management fundamental videos. But we do also have other playlists. So for different groups of content that's there, the Valiantys YouTube channel includes content for JSM. It includes it for Atlassian Analytics, Confluence, uh, Jira Line, all different products are also available there for content. So always feel free to check that out because we always have content being pushed out weekly. So I'm not seeing any other questions. So with that, I'm going to take us to closing out. So I do want to thank you all for attending today's Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar. To deep dive more into JSM or to explore our training opportunities, be sure to visit valiantys.com/training. For questions, actually, no, we did get through all of our questions, so we are all good there. If you do have any further questions after this webinar, or if you need any further assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. And don't forget that you can register for our Jira Service Management Bootcamp, which is going to be, the next one is on October 7th. It's a great opportunity to expand your knowledge of Jira Service Management. We also have on next Thursday, August 28th, we have the Advanced Features JSM webinar, so definitely feel free to also check that out. For any additional inquiries about JSM or other Atlassian products, you can also connect with me via email or LinkedIn. Scan the QR code, it's going to bring you up my LinkedIn profile. So always feel free if you have any questions. But other than that, I thank everyone for coming and I hope you have a wonderful day.